I've been a financial advisor now for over 20 years, and I've helped hundreds of families reach their financial goals. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you one of the key secrets for you to reach your financial goals. This is something that really has moved the needle for my clients and for me personally. So let's jump in and talk about it. You know, one of the core principles that I share in my channel is no matter how much money you earn, you have to spend less than what you earn. You have to save, but it's not just enough to save. You also have to invest, and you have to invest successfully. And that's what today's video is. How do you invest successfully? This is the number one secret to reaching your financial goals. And I wish it was a get rich quick. I wish this was a way that you could reach your investment goals. Through investments, you could reach your goals 10 years earlier. That might happen, but it's probably not going to happen. But you know what? What I'm about to share with you is going to dramatically increase the likelihood of you reaching your goals. And it's going to make the journey a heck of a lot more enjoyable. So let's jump in and talk about it. First, I want to just show you where I'm at. I'm at this beautiful ski resort here today. I'm about to go inside and eat a lunch, and I thought I'd record a video here first. So what is this secret of mine? And that is, as Stephen Covey says, you have to begin with the end in mind. And so what is the end in mind for our financial goals? What are we trying to achieve? And for most of us, what we're trying to achieve is, you know, to hit our number, right? We're going to put in our money each year, and to hit our number, but to do it in a way that does not give us such a rocky ride that we blow out of the stocks. You know, there's various companies that are doing really well, and you can look at their history and say, if I had invested in this company, I don't mention specific company names, but let's say it's a social media company, or, you know, it's a company in the computer chip industry, and it's done very, very well over the last 20 years. And you think, man, if I had just put $10,000 in that, or $100,000, look how much money I'd have. But you know, almost without exception, all of those companies, most of us would not have stayed in the journey for that 10 or 20 years that it took. Yes, it had a good outcome, but the problem is not being able to stay in for the journey. So how do we beat that? How do we create a portfolio that we can stay in for the journey? And I think it really comes down to three things. The first is, and this is going to determine 80% of your success with investing, and it's just simply your asset allocation. You know, what percent of your portfolio is in stocks? What percent of your portfolio is in bonds? And making sure that you get that here. I'll give you a view of some people skiing here, or over here would be better. What percent of your portfolio are in the stocks and bonds? And, you know, are you going to be able to withstand the volatility that comes with that portfolio? So a lot of people might think, okay, my portfolio is 70% stocks and 30% bonds. I don't want you thinking that way. I don't want you thinking percentages. So I said that there's 3 points there's 3 levels to this secret. The first one is, I want you thinking years, not percentages. And what do I mean by that? If you're in a 70% stock portfolio, 30% bonds, I want you to start look at how much money you have in bonds, and say, okay, this represents 2 years of living expenses, 3 years of living expenses, 5 years of living expenses, whatever that is. And why do I say that? Why is this important? Because when the stock market goes through a scary period, if you're already retired, I don't want you to have the mental anguish that comes from watching the stock market fall 20, 30, 40%. Don't think the market can fall like that going forward? Maybe. I hope you're right, but I disagree. I think it can. It can, and it has. Right? At the start of COVID, the market dropped 20% in a 3 or 4 week period. It was the fastest drop in the stock market history. In the great financial crisis, the market top to bottom, the S&P 500, dropped almost 60%, 57%. That's a big drop. And if that happens again in the future, I don't know if it will or it won't, but if it does happen again, I want you to be able to withstand that and not not let that anxiety, not let that emotional pressure make you what I call a forced seller. Excuse me, a forced seller in a down market. So, and how do you do that? You do that by looking at your bond portfolio. And let's say you've got strong, stable bonds in your portfolio that are going to mature in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. Hopefully you can look at that and say, yes, the stock market's down. Yes, the value of my portfolio is down, but I don't need to sell anything to fund my living expenses. So that's item one, is I don't want you thinking percentages of your portfolio. I want you thinking yours. Number two is I want you to begin with the end in mind. I use that a lot. That's a core principle of mine. And one of the ends is to not become a forced seller in a down market. And I want that to stay top of mind with you. Always be thinking, okay, how do I avoid becoming a forced seller in a down market? And the way you avoid that, because most of the time it's either you didn't plan, so you're going to need cash when the market's down, and I just told you how to avoid that. You have bonds in your portfolio that you can fund your living expenses out of. So that's how to avoid becoming a forced seller, because you need cash. Another thing is be very careful with your debt. Don't be in a situation where maybe you have a balloon payment, you have a big debt payment coming due that you may not have the cash available for that. And if you get unlucky and the stock market's down, you may have to sell stocks in order to meet that balloon payment. So be careful on your liabilities in the future, and make sure that you prepare ahead of time so you're not a forced seller in a down market. For instance, right now, if I knew I had a balloon payment, if I had to pay back $100,000 a debt in 1 or 2 years, as I record this now, the stock market's at an all-time high. It probably makes sense for me to take that money out of the stock market now at all-time highs and put that in stable, secure bonds that are going to mature when that balloon payment is due, so I don't have to sell stocks that might be down. The likelihood is the stock market's going to be up, and I've left some chips on the table. But again, point number two is begin with the end in mind, and structure your life so that you're not a forced seller in a down market. So that's the second one. And the third one is, I think the goal is to make good decisions. And ask yourself, are you more likely to make good decisions going it alone and making decisions maybe when things are scary? You know, we make our best decisions when times are calm, when prices are high, and we can be thinking rationally. So we make good decisions in times like today. So what do you do to protect yourself from being a forced seller in a down market? Exactly what I just talked about earlier, right? Get your asset allocation right. If you have liabilities coming up, maybe it's kids' college tuition, something like that, plan for that years ahead of time, right? And then the other way to avoid becoming a forced seller, and this is point number three, I want you to seriously consider working with a professional. Yes, it costs some money. Yes, a lot of people outside of the industry would say, you know, it ain't cheap. And you know what, it's not cheap, but look at the value that's added. What's the cost of a 10% mistake? Particularly as we get older and we successfully build up our nest egg. You know, it's one thing to make a 10% mistake when you're managing a $50,000 portfolio. It's another thing to make a 10% mistake when your portfolio is now $500,000 or even $5 million, right? A 10% mistake with a $5 million portfolio, that's $500,000. That's real money. You can change lives and you can support people and causes that you care about with money like that. And I wouldn't leave that to chance. I wouldn't leave that to my personal emotions. You know, what happens if I get scared? Maybe I've never blown out of the stock market in the past, and it's like, oh, I'm never going to do that. But here's what you don't know. Once you retire, and even if you have $5 million, let's say it's $1 million, right? You have $1 million, which 90% of retirees don't have, so congratulations. So now you have $1 million. Now, the nice thing is you only have to get wealthy once. And once you get wealthy once, then the job number one becomes don't lose that wealth, right? And job number two is never forget job number one, right? So I think most people are going to make better decisions. They're going to find themselves in a better position 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if they're working with a professional, somebody that's removed from the emotion of managing their own account, somebody that has seen it before and done it before hundreds of times, somebody that's been through multiple market cycles. You know, if you're hiring a financial advisor, why not have somebody that's been doing it for 15 or 20 years? Most of the time, it doesn't cost more to have somebody that has more experience. And I do value life experience. Now, granted, I'm biased on several factors here, right? I'm biased on using a financial advisor because I am a financial advisor. Full disclosure to you, when I retire, I plan on using a financial advisor. I don't plan on looking at my investments much. Why? Because I know my views on risk is going to change once that's my nest egg and that's all I have. I want to work with a professional that I trust. And frankly, I've been doing this my whole life, right? It's really not retirement for me if I just evolve from managing money for other people to my full-time job could easily become managing my money. I don't want that to happen. And I think I'm going to make better decisions with a professional. I also think you're going to make better decisions. I also think you'll be in a better position to enjoy the youth of your senior years. You'll be more likely to have that sense of urgency that I think we all need to have as we approach 60. Remember, once we're 60, we likely have less than 1,000 weeks remaining of healthy, active time. And I want you to squeeze all the juice and get all the joy and satisfaction from your hard work and enjoy each and every one of those 1,000 weeks. And that's why I made this video here, 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can. Thanks for watching today's video, and I'll see you in this one. Bye-bye.